It was 38 degrees below zero when I realized my pack was going to kill me. December 19th, 1953. I was 3 days into the Yukon Territory with 67 pounds of tools strapped to my back, and my legs were giving out. The other trappers in that region carried the same load. 5 separate tools: axe weighing 4 pounds, hammer at 2 pounds, steel wedge at 3, small shovel at 5, carving tool at 1.5. That's 15.5 pounds just in metal before rope, handles, and everything else. I was running a trap line that year, moving between locations every 4 days. The weight wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. My shoulders were raw from the straps. Blisters had turned to open wounds. That's when I heard about old Samuel Cordero. He was a ferryman who'd worked the northern route since the 1890s. Samuel had done something different with his tools, something that the other men didn't understand. I didn't understand it yet either, but I knew I had to find out. Because if I didn't change something, I wasn't going to make it through that winter alive. I was 32 years old when I came to the Yukon. Not experienced, not like I am now. I'd spent 10 years in Montana doing standard trapping work. Gun, knife, basic axe, nothing complicated. I thought I was ready for the north. I was wrong. That first winter, I followed exactly what everyone else did. Standard kit: axe for chopping firewood and felling small trees, hammer for driving stakes and breaking ice, steel wedge for splitting logs when the axe wasn't enough, small shovel for digging snow and earth, carving tool for trap modifications and fine work. Made sense on paper. Every tool had one job, one specific purpose. Everyone carried them. The Hudson Bay Company recommended them. The old-timers carried them, so I carried them too. But out there, the weight compounds. Your body breaks down faster when it's loaded. I was making mistakes because I was exhausted. I cut my leg badly with the axe in March because my hands were shaking from fatigue, couldn't hold it steady. I fell twice crossing frozen streams because my pack pulled me off balance. The second time I went through the ice, nearly drowned. My pack weighed almost 70 pounds with all the other gear. My shoulders couldn't handle it. My knees couldn't handle it. And I started realizing something that the other trappers wouldn't admit. We didn't need 5 tools. We needed 5 functions. There's a difference. And if one tool could do multiple jobs, everything changes. Before I tell you exactly how I did that, let me say something. If you like this kind of practical knowledge that keeps you alive when nothing else will, subscribe to this channel. I spent 40 years learning this the hard way. Alone, freezing, making mistakes that almost killed me. Every week I post a new survival technique, every single one tested by me during 40 years in the wilderness. So subscribe. Let's get into what matters. I found Samuel Cordero in a small settlement near Fort McPherson. He was 68 years old then, hands scarred from 40 years of metalwork. He'd modified his own tools years before, back in the 1920s. Not for fashion, for survival. He told me something I never forgot. He said, "The blade isn't one thing. It's many angles. Each angle serves a purpose. You don't need 5 tools. You need 5 angles on one blade." I didn't believe him at first. This seemed like nonsense. Why would one tool work as well as 5 specialized tools? That doesn't make sense. But Samuel showed me his axe. 16 years old at that point. The head showed wear patterns in very specific places. Different angles worn differently depending on what job it was doing. He explained how the geometry worked, how the angle you hit with determined the function. Steep angle for splitting, shallow angle for chopping, specific geometry on one side for wedging, a curved section that acted like a small pounding hammer, an edge that could carve, one blade, 5 functions. He let me use it for a day. I tried everything he described. He was right, it worked. But I was still doubtful about doing it myself. I didn't have his skill. I didn't have his experience with metalwork. That doubt lasted until February. I was stuck in a ravine with a broken pack support strap. I needed to split wood for a shelter. I had my standard hammer and wedge, wasted movement, 3 separate actions when it should have been 1. That's when I decided I was going to learn Samuel's technique. I was going to modify my own tools, and I was going to prove it worked. The axe you choose matters more than people think. I started with a double-bit axe from Maine, made in 1941, American steel. The head weighed exactly 4 pounds and 3 ounces. The blade measured 6 inches across the cutting edge and 3.5 inches from edge to spine. That thickness matters. You need carbon steel, not stainless. Stainless is too brittle for what we're doing. The grain of the steel has to be consistent. Hold it up to light. You shouldn't see major stress lines or discoloration. Any pitting in the metal means the steel is compromised. Don't use it. The handle was hickory wood, 32 inches long, slightly tapered. You need hickory because it absorbs shock better than ash. The weight distribution is critical. When you hold the axe with your hand on the grip, the head should feel balanced, slightly forward, not too much. About 1/2 inch past neutral. This tells you the steel is quality and the handle is sound. Finding the right axe means visiting antique dealers or old hardware stores. You're looking for axes made between 1920 and 1960. Industrial quality, not the mass-produced lightweight versions they make today. Those modern axes won't hold the angles we're creating. The steel is too soft. Expect to spend $30 to $50 if you find the right one. Test it by tapping it against a metal surface. Quality steel rings clear. Dull thud means poor quality. Reject it immediately. You might find 5 bad axes before you find one good one. That's normal. Take your time. Now for tools. You need a medium-cut bastard file. 10 inches long minimum. Cost about $8. You need a mill bastard file too. Finer cut. Better for precision angles. Cost about $6. You need a good hacksaw with fresh blades. Costs about $4. A bench vise is essential. Clamp the axe head securely. Without a vise, you cannot control the modifications safely. If you don't have access to a vise, ask a local blacksmith or machine shop if you can use theirs for an hour. Most will let you for $5. You need a metal straight edge, 18 inches. Check angles accurately, about $3. A protractor for measuring precise angles, about $2. A grinding stone for final sharpening, $10. Safety glasses and work gloves, non-negotiable, $5 total. The workspace matters. You need a sturdy workbench, stable, not wobbly. The vise must be solid. If your vise moves when you're filing, you'll create uneven angles and the tool won't work. A poorly modified axe is worse than an unmodified axe. Better to take more time than rush it. Set up near natural light or use a work lamp. You need to see exactly what you're doing. Shadows hide mistakes. The temperature should be above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold metal is brittle and more likely to crack under file pressure. Work in a garage or workshop, not outdoors, not in the rain. Preparation takes time. First, clean the axe head completely. Remove all rust and old varnish. Use a wire brush. Scrub hard. This takes about 2 hours. You need bare steel to work with. Don't use anything on top of rust. You won't create clean angles. After cleaning, mark your modification lines using a scribe or sharp pencil. Use the protractor to mark exact angle positions. Mark them clearly. Once you start filing, you can't undo mistakes. Mark the steep angle section first. That's your wedging edge. Mark the shallow angle section second. That's your primary cutting edge. Mark the hammer section third, the back corner area. Mark the prying edge fourth, the bottom blade corner. Mark the carving section last. The fine edge section. Each section has different measurements. Write them down. Tape the measurements to your workbench. Reference them constantly. Safety first. Never file toward your body. Always file away. Keep your hands behind the file. Secure the axe in the vise with maximum pressure. Loose tools slip. Slipping tools cause deep cuts. You're working with razor-sharp edges and metal that can catch skin easily. Wear heavy work gloves, not thin ones. The bastard file will catch your skin if you're not protected. Keep a first aid kit nearby. Not kidding. Accidents happen. Work slowly. Rushing causes mistakes. This entire modification process takes between 40 and 60 hours. Spread it over multiple days. Your hands will tire. When your hands tire, your focus drops and mistakes increase. Work 2 or 3 hours at a time. Rest. Return fresh. The first modification alone takes about 15 hours of careful filing. Don't try to do it all in one day. I finished the modification in late March of 1953. My hands were sore. My fingers had blisters from holding files, but the axe was ready. I tested it immediately on a ridge near Fort McPherson, where I was running traps. The temperature was 14 degrees Fahrenheit. I had fresh snow, frozen ground, and 2 dead spruce trees I needed to process. This was the moment of truth. Before, I would have carried my full kit. Axe, hammer, wedge, shovel, carving tool. That's 15.5 pounds of metal plus handles and rope. Total pack weight that day would have been 68 pounds. This time, I carried only the modified axe, 4 pounds and 3 ounces. The difference was staggering. My pack felt like air. My shoulders didn't burn. My legs felt strong. I started by felling the first spruce using the primary cutting edge. Took 12 minutes. Clean cuts. The angle worked perfectly. Then I used the steep wedge section to split sections of trunk without touching the hammer. The geometry did the work. 8 minutes to split what normally took 20 with hammer and wedge separate. Next, I used the carving tool section to modify a trap component that had broken. Fine work. Took 6 minutes. Normally that would require removing the dedicated carving tool, cleaning it, using it, then putting it away. That's wasted time and motion. Then I needed to pound in stakes. The hammer section on the back corner worked exactly as designed. 43 stakes driven in 2 hours. With a separate hammer, I would have needed to switch tools constantly. The weight distribution of the modified axe made the pounding motion efficient and controlled. By day's end, I had completed work that normally took 2 days of hard labor. I did it faster, I did it more efficiently, and I did it with significantly less weight on my body. I was convinced. I used that modified axe for the next 15 years without modification. 1953 through 1968. Through 47 trap seasons in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and northern British Columbia. In temperatures that dropped to minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit, in blizzards where visibility dropped to 5 feet, in situations where carrying extra weight meant the difference between making it to shelter and freezing to death. The axe never failed, not once. The angles held their sharpness. The handle never cracked. In 1960, I was caught in a whiteout storm near Beaver Lake. I was 8 miles from shelter. My food was running low. I needed to build an emergency shelter immediately. Using 5 separate tools would have cost me 45 minutes of precious time. With the modified axe, I built a functional shelter in 22 minutes. Felled a small spruce with the cutting edge. Split branches with the wedge section. Carved anchor points with the fine carving section. That shelter kept me alive through a minus 42-degree night. If I'd been slowed by traditional tools, I wouldn't have made it. Other trappers started noticing. By 1962, 7 different men were asking me about the modification. I taught 3 of them how to do it. They all reported the same results: faster work, less weight, more efficiency. A blacksmith in Fort Nelson, British Columbia named Michael Kearney heard about it and started producing modified axes based on my design. He made about 30 of them between 1963 and 1970. I don't know how many are still in use today, but I've heard from 2 people over the years who owned ones he'd made. Today you can buy minimalist axes designed on the same principles. They cost between $80 and $120. My modification cost roughly $30 in materials and tools. The weight savings is dramatic. A standard trapper's kit with 5 tools weighs 15.5 pounds of metal alone. Add handles, rope, and storage, you're at 22 pounds minimum. My modified axe handles 5 functions at 4 pounds and 3 ounces. That's a difference of 17.5 pounds you don't have to carry. Over a 10-mile day in deep snow, that's life-changing. Your legs don't fail. Your shoulders don't break down. Your mind stays sharp because you're not exhausted. That weight difference compounds over time. Look, I spent 40 years learning these techniques the hard way, alone in the cold, making mistakes that almost killed me, every single one tested by me during decades in the wilderness. That's why I built this channel. If you care about practical knowledge that keeps you alive when nothing else will, subscribe right now. If this video helped you understand how one tool can replace 5, leave a like. Tell me in the comments what your favorite multi-tool has been. What tool do you wish did more? And if you want to see how I modified the handle itself to change how the axe functions, click the video that's about to appear on your screen. That's where the real magic happens. Remember, these are educational stories based on historical survival techniques produced with the help of artificial intelligence. Stay safe out there.